Let him die. Those were the chilling words I heard my own mother utter when I begged her to help Grandpa. They had just heard he had cancer, or so they thought. Within hours, they began dividing his estate like scavengers circling prey. There was no mourning, no compassion, just greed, veiled in concern. But Grandpa wasn't dying. He was watching. He was testing us. And when he walked in, strong, alive, and very much aware, their masks fell off one by one. What followed wasn't just revelation. It was reckoning. The Rosenthal family looked like something out of a glossy magazine. Elegant. Wealthy. Perfect. But perfection is often just a well-polished lie. Jonathan Rosenthal, Grandpa John, was a retired war hero and a self-made man who built a small shipping company into a respected logistics empire. He raised 3 children, Eleanor, Harold, and Caroline, each entitled in their own ways. Jonathan's wife, Margaret, passed away a decade ago, and after that, everything began to unravel. Eleanor, my mother, married a Wall Street broker and developed a taste for martinis and manipulation. Uncle Harold was a tax consultant who never missed a family event, especially when wills or wealth were discussed. Aunt Caroline was the artsy one, moving from man to man and gallery to gallery, always low on funds and full of demands. And then there was me, Ava, Eleanor's daughter. I was raised more by Grandpa than my own parents. I didn't wear designer shoes or attend private galas, but I sat at Grandpa's feet and listened to his war stories, his laughter, his regrets. We were close. Closer than anyone else in the family understood or appreciated. Then the call came that changed the axis of our world. It was a gray Thursday morning when Grandpa called. I remember the light drizzle against my window and the way my coffee suddenly lost its warmth. Ava, he said softly, they think it might be cancer. The doctor, he said there's a shadow on the scan. I gripped my phone tighter. Did they confirm it? Not yet. But I wanted you to hear it from me first. Just in case. I dropped everything. I was halfway across town but drove through pouring rain to get to his home. I brought soup, comfort, a warm blanket. But by the time I arrived, the house was already humming with voices that didn't belong. My mother, my aunt, my uncle, all there, as if summoned by the scent of an open vault. They weren't hugging him. They were huddled around the dining table with spreadsheets and legal pads. Eleanor looked up. Oh good, you're here. We were just discussing what's best for Dad, financially. I was speechless. That evening, as Grandpa lay in his recliner, pretending to nap, I helped him to his study. He locked the door. There is no cancer, Ava. I blinked. What? I lied. It was necessary. He reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a small recorder. I needed to see what they'd do. I needed proof of who they really are. And I needed someone I trust to help me carry out the truth. Saturday came, and with it, an unofficial estate meeting. The air in the Rosenthal home had shifted. Grief was replaced by calculation. The living room turned into a strategy boardroom. Harold arrived with an appraiser. He suggested selling the lake house for simplification. Caroline handed out notes on property taxes. Eleanor was taking photos of heirlooms and labeling them with colored stickers. Dad always said the coin collection should stay in the family, she said, placing a green sticker on the antique chest. Grandpa sat silently in the corner, bundled in a shawl, playing his part. Every movement was deliberate, a labored breath here, a grimace there. He was an old soldier running one final mission. That night, I asked my mom if they'd considered hospice support or maybe some gentle caretaking. He's old, Ava. Maybe this is nature's way, she said casually, sipping white wine. He's had a good run. The words stung. Grandpa had given them everything. And now, they were treating him like a closing stock. On Sunday morning, Caroline brought over a local pastor, Pastor Rick, to pray over Grandpa. But it was more of a ceremonial send-off than a spiritual visit. I just think we should prepare, she whispered to me, patting my shoulder with faux concern. Closure is healthy. They dressed in black. They played soft piano hymns. And yet, the only person not invited into the morning circle was Grandpa himself. Harold, now self-declared executor, proposed a timeline for selling the properties. The market's hot, he said. Let's strike while we can. I want the silver tea set, Caroline added. Mom promised it to me. You can have it, Eleanor said. I'll take the safe deposit box. I couldn't take it anymore. I walked out to the garden and screamed into my scarf. Later that night, I sat beside Grandpa, tears streaming down my face. They've buried you before your time. He squeezed my hand. That's the point. Monday evening arrived. The final act. Grandpa asked me to set the table. He wanted one last family dinner. Invite them. Everyone. Tell them it's urgent. I texted and called. They came quickly, of course. Probably thinking he'd make final wishes. That he'd hand out checks. The table was set with Grandma's old china. Crystal glasses sparkled under the chandelier. The meal smelled divine. I'd cooked his favorites, roast chicken, garlic mash, rosemary vegetables. They arrived in dark suits, polished shoes, and forced concern. I hope he makes it through the night, Harold whispered. He looks worse, Caroline noted. Then Grandpa stood. Before we eat, he said, his voice steady and clear, I have something to share. From his pocket, he produced the recorder. Pressed play. The room filled with familiar voices. Let's liquidate everything. He's practically gone already. Let him die. Gasps. Shock. Silent horror. Then, with the poise of a king reclaiming his throne, Grandpa spoke. I am not dying. I never was. He took a breath. You were tested. And every single one of you failed. He looked at me. Except Ava. He opened a sealed envelope. This is my new will. It's been notarized. Every asset, every investment, every property, goes to Ava. Not out of favoritism, but justice. Panic erupted. Caroline stood up. This is emotional manipulation. Harold pointed. You tricked us. Eleanor sat in stunned silence. The days that followed were chaotic. Mom called the family lawyer to challenge the will. She was told it was legally sound. Harold tried to get me to share the inheritance. He called it a fair redistribution. Caroline sent emotional letters. Then threatening ones. I responded to none of them. Instead, I focused on Grandpa. We traveled to places he'd always wanted to revisit, Paris, Kyoto, Cape Town. He laughed more in those years than I'd ever seen. We rebuilt the vintage Mustang. He taught me how to fly fish. We created memories far richer than anything stored in a vault. You gave me life when I thought I was surrounded by death, he once told me. He passed away peacefully, in his sleep, surrounded by warmth, not vultures. After the funeral, a real one this time, I started the Rosenthal Trust in his name. It offered scholarships to underprivileged students. His estate built libraries and funded veteran therapy programs. The family? They scattered. Eleanor remarried and moved states. Harold faded into corporate obscurity. Caroline opened a boutique in another city, bitter but distant. But I carried Grandpa with me. Not in dollars. Not in deeds. But in honor. Because when the masks fell, and the greed was exposed, the truth stood resilient. And that truth was love. The end.